Michał, and today I want to share with you some doubts about using Ember.js with GraphQL. And let's start with the agenda. First, I want to share some thoughts about GraphQL. Then I want to present the available solutions for Ember.js. And then we just look at some basic example of using GraphQL together with Ember.js. So first, what is the GraphQL? So this is the query language that can replace the REST, and it allows us to ask for some data and the server responds with the same format that we ask. So it's really flexible way for fetching data. We can customize everything, and another cool feature is that we can batch updates, do certain few actions in one request. So the boilerplate that we need to spend in connection on HTTP is really low. Okay, so in Ember.js we have two major solutions for playing with GraphQL. One is the Ember Apollo client, and another is Ember GraphQL adapter. And this is the basic difference between those two. Like we can see, the Ember GraphQL adapter is much more popular, but I don't know why. And Apollo client is wrapper for JS Apollo client. It's some kind of mini framework playing with GraphQL. So, like you can see in the previous slides, Ember GraphQL adapter have just better stats, but there always is the bad keyword. I do some research before the presentation, and I was looking for documentation for this add-on, and I found nothing. So on the official repository is documentation for implementing GraphQL endpoint in Ruby, but why? Because I was looking for documentation for this certain add-on and no Ruby implementation of the standard. So this is the big mistake, I think. And I also was looking for something that I can easily customize and do some custom queries that I can define with GraphQL query language. And also, I don't found anything in this add-on. And like I said before, I cannot by hand write this query and get the data that I want. So these three things makes me I just choose the Ember Apollo client, and it works really well, I think. So let's go to a short example how to use it with Ember.js. So if we want to implement GraphQL consumer, so we need 6 things. The first is the add-on, and then we need to configure some endpoint and credentials for this API. It will be used in authentication, and then we write some query, and then we consume this query in our root. So let's begin. To install, we just need to Ember install Apollo client. So like any other add-on, it's really easy. Then we need to do some configuration. In the basic of the add-on, we need just this one line for Apollo. We need to define where is the endpoint that we want to consume. And I added also GitHub because I was consuming GitHub API in this example. Then we need to write our query. So in this example, I want just fetch the issues. I want to give the username, repo name, and count of the issues that I want to fetch. So we create just simple GraphQL query that we are typing the repo that is string, owner string, and count integer. And it's just, we need just to fetch the title of the issues from some repository. So like you can see, it's also just some basics. And then I was thinking how I can authenticate my request to the GitHub, because GitHub GraphQL from version 2 and above needs authentication. And in the documentation, that is quite well, I found the middlewares. We can just simply add the middleware that will be implemented in every request that we are sending to the API. So I just made some basic logic that if there's no header with authentication, I will create it and then pass the token to it. Simple as that, you can see. And then in our root, I want to fetch the data from the GitHub. So we are creating variables, like you can see it, and it's really well documented in the GraphQL documentation. So we are passing these variables and executing our query that we imported and created a few slides before. And just it. We are sending, we are getting the data back. So I think it's really easy to implement and can do very powerful things. But I also checking what's with the mutation and fragment, and it's really well documented. There are a few examples how to do it, and it's everything with the GraphQL standards. So documentation, and we can implement everything. And then I found one problem, that Ember Apollo client don't works well with the Ember data. So instead of using Ember data, I installed the Redux with Ember Redux add-on, and it also is really well documented, and adding, I think, 6 or 7 lines of code, I had the full Redux implemented with the states and actions, reducers, etc. So I replaced the Ember data part with the Redux and Ember Apollo client. And that's it. Thanks. Any questions?
My question is about the Apollo, because from what I remember, Apollo is not like this is a client for GraphQL. It's like a generic solution for synchronizing multiple different nodes. So it's not only that it can consume GraphQL.
I don't think so, because maybe I misunderstood or I found the part of the documentation for GraphQL, because there is a lot stuff for GraphQL. Maybe this is another of, I don't know, maybe.
I was thinking it's like the Apollo was supposed to also solve the problem of synchronization different type of nodes. Probably GraphQL is one of the options, but maybe the only one, I don't know. I thought that it's not only limited to
I wasn't searching about that, so I will check it.
Okay.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Integrated with the Ember Cloud. To authorize the request.
Yeah, you can do with the request everything you want. So you can create your own middleware that will do the stuff for the Ember Simple Auth. Because in Ember Simple Auth you just need to add the header.
Yeah, but there are special authorizers for that.
So you can use this, inject this service with Simple Auth and use this authorize in this middleware. So it's really fun, because with really small amount of code you can just create middleware and add. Okay, so thanks.
Okay.